We're live here. Real Estate Show is live. Facebook is live. YouTube is live. And by a string, so am I. We're on the countdown here, getting ready to start. And hello, South Florida. Welcome to another live edition of the Real Estate Show, our TGIF edition of the Real Estate Show. That's, thank God it's Friday, of course. Thank God it's Florida. And tell God I'm fed up here with all of the protesters and all of these things. We're all trying to get back to work, but in a safe and well-managed manner. So everyone's who's complaining about masks, get over it. Everybody who's complaining about quarantining, get over it. Everyone who's sitting there, just twiddling their thumbs at home, get over it. It's time for us to really get going. And that's why we started the week off this week asking the question, are you 6 months behind, as most people that I talk to are, or are you ready for the next 6 months and ready to make the next 6 months really count for 2020? It is going to be, I think, a rock and roll year. It is going to be a rock and roll year in every sense of the word. So for those of you, I always grew up hearing that there are three kinds of people in the world. There's the 1% of the people that make things happen. There's 5% of the people that watch what happens. And then there's the other 94% of the people who wonder what happened. And that's what's happening. And that's why I posed the question as sort of a wake-up call ahead of our July 1st. Next week, we're going to see, and then we have officially declared July 1st, January 1st, a brand new year. So I hope you'll join us as we kind of go through really the effort of making 2020 a great year. We are going to do that, and we're going to do that publicly and openly and share all the stuff that we're doing. We're working on several different fronts, as you'll find out, or as you heard on our midweek report last week. Real estate is up in spite of the pandemic, in spite of the protests, and I'm fed up with that too. In spite of all of the things that are going on, and now we have a big giant cloud storm coming over across the Atlantic Ocean. So what else are they going to throw at us? And yet the real estate market, thankfully, is still doing really, really well. In fact, it is by all definitions a seller's market, meaning that there are more buyers than there are sellers. The sellers are able to get the prices that they want right now. And even with all the forbearance conversation, we had a conversation. I got some updates on that for you in today's show. But even with all of the forbearances that are out there, again, the real estate market right now is solid. And as was the case back in 2007, 2006, real estate was the last of the pillars to fall when everything else in the economy was going wrong. But quite frankly, right now, other than the fact that we're in this lockdown situation, and that obviously severely affects tourism, travel, hotels, the restaurant, basically anything that requires big crowds or people close together has been adversely affected because of the quarantine measures. But when you look at the stock market, go figure, when you look at the real estate market, when you look at a lot of the other businesses, and for example, here in Florida, where there are a lot of restaurants that have a good portion, in some cases, the majority of their portion outdoors, those restaurants, I found out, are doing extremely well in this pandemic. It's the smaller boutique, closed inside. Obviously, all the bars. Unfortunately, today we just got the word again that they were shutting down bars. Restaurants can still serve alcohol with the social distancing, but bars per se are shut back down. So just as some of them were coming back in and opening back up, like I said, maybe it's a good sign. Maybe it's a good thing in view of the 4th of July weekend, with everybody being so tempted to want to get out there and celebrate. I hope we do have a good celebration. We were just talking with some of our neighbors what the outlook is going to be, whether it's going to be fireworks. Obviously, they're not going to do the big public fireworks where people congregate, but perhaps they'll still light them off so that everybody can see it from wherever they live. But we'll see. So anyway, Monday, we asked the question, are you 6 months behind like most people that I see, or are you ready to launch into 2020? I hope that the answer is the second. If you are, then you're watching the right show. If you're watching us on our Facebook and YouTube, because I'm going to be bringing in some graphics, I'm going to be bringing in some of those things. But whether you're listening to us on the radio or even want to watch us later, because all of these are being recorded. Camera 1 is our Facebook, Camera 2 is our YouTube, and of course, everything is being mic'd up, not only on those platforms, but we're on AM 1470 here in South Florida. We are on FM 95.3 FM. We're on 96.9, 103.9. So no matter where you are in the South Florida area, or even outside of the South Florida area, if you have access to a free app called iHeartRadio or the TuneIn app, just look for WWNN 1470 Money Talk Radio, and you can also dial in. Now, we're live Monday through Friday from 8 until 8:30 p.m. Eastern. But if you go to either our Facebook page or to our website at therealestateshow.net, you can go to the top of the page there, click on the Real Estate Show notes, and there will be a link for you to be able to listen to the show either live at the appropriate time, or you can download or listen to it streaming right then and there. Now, Tuesday, we always get into our tools, tips, and techniques. And on Tuesday, I brought in last week's conversation about the 6 stages of a real estate investor. And it was real important for you to understand those 6 stages, because that is what is going to help you to answer the question, are you 6 months behind, or are you ready for the next, are you ready to take off? Are you ready to rocket the next 6 months? And so I recommend go back and listen to some of those pre-recordings, because that is where you will be able to either self-assess, or I invited everybody to give me a call for a complimentary free assessment, a strategy call if you know what you want to do, or an assessment call if you don't quite know what you want to do. You can go on either our Facebook page up in the corner, on our website. You can go also to automaticlandlord.com, and in the top right corner it says book an appointment. The appointment is free. It's a way for us to set up an appointment and to be able to block out time that's mutually agreeable without the back and forth and so forth. And let's get you set up for the first of the second half, or the first of the new year, this 2020 that we're talking about. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break here, a few words from our sponsors, because I don't want to start on the next topic until first we're going to hear from our sponsors here. You are listening to the Real Estate Show. We've got the whole week here to recap and walk through. So we got a lot more for you on the other side. Plus, I want to give you an update on the FHA situation, on the moratorium, along with also a big update on the forbearance situation. So don't touch that dial. You're listening to the Real Estate Show. My name is Eric Wilner, and I'll be right back. Hey, Cindy, how are you? Good to see you there. And I see Eliana from Brazil. I see, who else do I see? I'm going to have to put on my my glasses to really see. And John, are you ready? Are you ready? So as I was going back over all of the topics that we talked over this week, it was just incredible to Okay. So you see, John. So it is kind of amazing when you really look back and you look at all of the obstacles thrown at our economy and all of the potential problems. Mortgage applications are at a brisk high rate. Real estate sales are at a brisk high rate. And I'll tell you, there's pockets of the economy that are very strong. Construction is very up. I told you the new home builder sentiment is very strong, and that's usually a farther outlook. So that's very good. The highly broad point that I wanted to make here is that there is a sense of confidence in that the United States will bounce back one way or the other. And, here we are also in Simone. Yes. Coming back. I hear my engineer telling me he's keeping me straight. Simone, hello. And welcome back. For those of you just joining us, you are listening to The Real Estate Show, a show that happens 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, right here from 8 p.m. till 8:30 p.m. That's Eastern Standard Time. Broadcast literally from coast to coast of the United States and also reaching all sorts of places. We have a couple of listeners tonight from Brazil. We have listeners from time to time from Canada. I know that I know I'll definitely have listeners from Canada and from other places in South America throughout when these recordings and the Facebook Lives go onto the archives. Not everybody is able to listen to us right on time, but know that there are the archives. So if you do miss them, and also I want to ask all of those of you who do listen and watch us on Facebook or on our YouTube channel to make sure that you are letting other people know. We want to get the word out, help more people to keep real estate strong, and to take advantage and help make your real estate strong as it should be. So I covered what we talked about Monday. Of course, that's sort of the pervasive theme of the whole week, which is, are you behind 6 months? Because here we are, coming up, finishing the month of June, 6 months down. And while at the last quarter of the year, we were all sitting down making plans for this coming new year. Everybody was excited. It must have been very exciting for the people graduating in 2020. What a neat year to graduate in. And for all of that to come to a crashing, screeching halt in mid-March. And then, here we are now 3 months later. If you really think about it in the big picture, what is 3 months? Are we going to look back in history and talk about this 90-day pandemic? Or are we going to talk about, because the pandemics of 100 years ago, of 200 years ago, and it seems like every 100 years there seems to be something like this. Those lasted literally years, right? They lasted 2-3 years and maybe longer. And there have even been some that lasted 10 years. We're hoping to be able to, through the use of modern medicine and technology, dominate this thing in under a year. Talk about things moving fast at the speed of sound. Here we are, getting ready, gearing up, and here's the bottom line: pandemic or no pandemic, life goes on, and life can continue on. And what we just have to do is be smart about it. And that's why, I'm frequently telling my friends, you got to pick your fights. There's certain fights, and I could be in a lot more fights in my life, but I try to pick the ones that really matter, the ones that are going to make a bottom line difference. There are fights that I don't even mind losing. In fact, I don't even mind if I forfeit the fight. Go ahead, fight it yourself. A lot of what's going on today in the marketplace This whole business about knocking down statues and trying to erase history. It won't change the fact of that what history happened. Hopefully, the whole purpose that people even study history is to learn from the past. If you erase it, you're only bound to make the same mistakes again, number one. And number two, no one will learn anything from it either. So back to our recap for the week, because like I said today when I started the show, thank God it's Friday. Thank God it's Florida. And tell God I'm fed up with all of that stuff. I'm tired of being quiet about it. And, and I also want to say publicly here on my show that we do support the police. We do support law enforcement. There's bad apples in every single profession, but people, can't go from calling them heroes and, 1 year and then the next year they want to abolish and not even understand what that even means. So, well, back to our summary here. You can tell I really am fed up this week. Now, Wednesday, which is our midweek report, we were talking about the different, a couple of really good points. The first one is, and I still haven't really heard it put out there, although some of the people who are in the know in the business confirmed what I said yesterday or Wednesday, that FHA has now officially extended the moratorium on FHA loans. And Fannie Mae, Ginnie Mae, and Ginnie Mac are usually likely to follow suit if they haven't already. So the foreclosure moratorium for government-backed mortgages has now been extended from June 30th already to July 30th, 31st, and now August 31st. Now, here's my take on this whole thing, because, at first you're saying, well, this only kicks the can down the road, sort of prolongs what may be inevitable for some people. But on the other hand, for some people, it might just give them the extra time that they need, number one, for them to try to beg, borrow, steal, or get back to work and be able to have money in order to make their payments, stay in their homes, and everything will be fine. That's my hope for them. There are some folks that were already on the brink while the economy was very strong, and this simply gave them extra leeway for the good of the sake of not having to be homeless or worry about that. Yes, it gives them respite. I feel that at the same time, for the investors, whether they were institutional or even private investors that now have mortgages out there that aren't being paid because the government is leading the way. Hopefully it works on both sides. It never always will. But this now, what it does is it also saves the government a large amount of money, because otherwise they're going to have to provide the public service, including law enforcement, for all the people that are displaced and maybe have too much time on their hands to come up with these other cockamamie ideas. So here is the thing. That I did not hear any conversation about rent payments. So it looks like while the mortgages may be pushed out in the future, rent payments will be subject to the court system. And so that is good news for landlords and equitable, because I think a lot of tenants don't understand. Homeowners, like I said, understood this because in the last go around, there were forbearances and there were loan modifications, there were short sales, but there was one thing that became understood is none of this was for free. Either you lost the house if you couldn't pay it, or you ended up paying it, you ended up renegotiating, refinancing, modifying, but ultimately you still had to pay for the house. No pay, no stay. Now, I had a conversation today with one of South Florida's top real estate foreclosure attorneys, and he was telling me, and we were in agreement in the conversation, that when this comes back around, if this comes back around, first of all, I don't see it's going to be at the magnitude of 2008, because first of all, the economy was much more stronger. There is a hugely much larger demand, not only the baby boomers who have the purchasing power, but now the growing purchasing power of the millennials. So the demand side of the equation is far larger than it was back then. The supply is the same or less than it was. Remember, I showed you that there was a lot, much more percentage and this was in our Wednesday numbers, a much larger percentage of people as owner occupied as opposed to investors. Investors are much more likely to walk away from a roof not over their own heads, whereas homeowners are going to fight to the bitter end in order to try to keep their homes. So that's good news also. The other thing that will also help to, I think, make this a lot better is that there isn't the over leverage I talked about. And I think that the numbers that we talked about on our Wednesday show, all political stands aside, this is not a political statement. This is a purely an economical question. Is the real estate market better today than it was 4 years ago? That was my question. That's a great election year slogan. But here is the question. And the answer was very clear in the numbers that I gave out. I talked about the number of properties that are on the market, the number of days on the market. Back then, it was over 136 days on the market. At this time in 2016, we were already in the, well past just the recovery point. And now in 2020, the days on the market is now 36 days. When you look at the price at 205, the median national price that was 205, today it's 275. So you're looking at almost a 25% increase across the board. So are we better off now? Yes. Are we have a stronger economy? Yes. And even, like I said, in spite of all of those things, the sandstorm, the protests, the pandemic, and everything else, here we are with a pretty solid. Do I predict it's going to stay this solid forever? Absolutely not. We know real estate is cyclical, and we know that there's going to be a come to Jesus moment at some point in time when the government is going to have to take away a lot of these, artificial protections once the economy is strong enough for people to then take over and let the natural forces of the economy then go back into play. So that was, I'm going to tell you that Tuesday and Wednesday were really good shows. They're both worth going back to listening to if you missed those. And then it took us to Thursday. Now, Thursday, assuming now that you answered the question that I'm not 6 months behind, that I am prepared for the future, I wanted to show you how we're going to help people convert debt into wealth. It's a great concept. It is a concept that's been around for a while. It hasn't got a lot of play in a while, but we were talking about the automatic debt solution, a way for you to take the exact same amount of income that you have, the exact same amount of outflow of cash that you have every month, but by selectively choosing which debts to pay, when, how to structure it, and so forth, that we can show you how to accelerate the payoff period in your mortgage. For example, take a standard 30-year mortgage, use my method of how to pay off the mortgage. You will pay that mortgage off in 1/2 to 1/3 of the time. That's right. We could cut a 15-year mortgage without paying a higher payment on a 15-year mortgage. I can show you how to pay that off in 15 years. I can, and depending on a couple of other factors in there, maybe it'll even be only 10 years. Think about the savings. On a simple mortgage, it was only $1,000 a month. Every year that I save for you is worth $12,000. So 1 year is $12,000, 2 is $24,000, 10 is $120,000. So I'm going to tell you that you're going to save that amount of money if your mortgage payment is $1,000. If your mortgage payment is $2,000, go ahead and double it. And I'm going to tell you that this is phenomenal on a single house. If you are an investor, then you need to know this even more, because when you start applying multiple streams of income, then the numbers become almost too good to believe. But I can show it to you literally in black and white writing. And so on Thursday, I offered, and all you have to do is go to our website at automaticlandlord.com and say, I want the free analysis. You and I will have a conversation one-on-one, confidentially, and no cost and no obligation. Again, go to my website, automaticlandlord.com, go to the top of the page which says book an appointment, book that appointment, and then we'll talk about the numbers if this is something that can work for you. And I had my business partner, we're talking about setting up an expansion team. This is really exciting because we want more people to know about this. This is how powerful it is. Imagine if everybody didn't even have a mortgage, we wouldn't have to have forbearance. Imagine if everybody had so much equity in their property that they wouldn't have to worry about a pandemic coming along or an economic cycle turning downwards or anything like that. This is all very realistic, very possible. Again, set up an appointment. Let's talk about the real benefits of real estate. I've talked to you about why I think real estate is the ideal investment out there. And here's one more reason that isn't even commonly talked about, but it's a really good way to build wealth and to be able to now structure that wealth to help pay off all of your other debts. And the faster you can pay off all of your other debts, the more wealth you can build and the more assets that you can accumulate and a better retirement that you can have in the end. Anyway, it's TGIF, 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 and now the music's coming in. That means thank God it's finished too. So that's it for today's show, wrapping it up for the week. We'll be back again, starting this all over again on Monday. So until then, drive safe and make it a great day. God bless America. Oops. Thank you, Richard, my friend. Stay safe. It's always a pleasure working with you, my friend. No, I don't think I ever said ORG. Automaticlandlord is .com. The real estate show is .net. That's the thing. So thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Management or sponsors, stocks, options, futures.
So I'm gonna tell you the truth, it was an exhausting week. It was probably one of the busiest weeks in a while. Very positive, a lot of things kind of picking up, but I'll be honest with you, it was exhausting. And you would think that with all of this sequestering at home, sheltering in place, and being home, things would be calmer, quieter, and more relaxing. And Eric and I were talking. She works longer hours for the company at home because all the time she was losing in commuting, the company's now getting in extra hours. And for them, it's business as usual. For a lot of companies, it's business as usual, just working remotely. And think about the lessons that are being learned. And these are key and critical lessons because now more entrepreneurs, business owners, and employers are realizing that working at a distance, which had this, is it going to work? Is it really going to work? How are we going to know if people are going to be doing their jobs? Well, this time they didn't have a choice. And so the great experiment took place. And the great experiment is showing that productivity, where on earth are you hearing people say that productivity due to remote distance employees is down? I haven't heard it yet. And as business owners see the opportunity now, if they don't have to sacrifice productivity, then they can start saying, well, maybe I can cut back on some expenses on office space, real estate, etc. Maybe I can cut back on travel expenses and all sorts of things. So I think in the end, there are a number of silver linings in this enormous giant gray cloud. And a lot of them we probably haven't even seen, but probably advances in medicine as well. As I saw that there were some other headlines about some other new drugs being tested, some of them already now being eligible for the new government, lightning fast approval process. The technology that's going on. I mean, even think something as simple as Zoom has zoomed ahead in not only market share, and their business just exploded. And I could tell you probably that more than a handful of businesses that printing businesses that were dying suddenly got a boost in the arm because they were printing face masks. They were doing all sorts of the signs now that are required to be held displayed at the supermarkets, stores, and everything. Palm Beach County, which just went into sort of a reverse of the opening, now requiring masks in all public places, in any stores or commerce. You are required, subject to a $250 fine the first time, a $500 fine the second time, and the stores are being required to enforce those. It's crazy to think about it that that we're basically doing a U-turn. But think about now for the business, because when I heard about a friend of mine who told me about a business that was skyrocketing, the printing business, and then I see the headline, and then I went and read the actual law that they just came out here in Palm Beach County to make sure that that we comply. And it's talking about how there's a grace period, but the stores have to put up the signage to enforce it. Hence the printers again. Restaurants, not all restaurants are suffering. There's a couple of restaurants here, particularly in Florida, a lot of the waterfront restaurants, where the majority of their seating is actually open air and outside. They're actually booming in terms of business, and they're busy, longer hours because people feel better in an open air situation. So watch for those opportunities. And we talked about a couple of weeks of some of the other ideas of where to be buying properties in the next 6 to 12 months. So between the millennial hints that I gave you, between the assisted living hints that I gave you, and I'll drop some more in the coming weeks as well. I'm still very fired up, and honestly, I'm not concerned if the real estate market continues to go up. Buy in those areas that I've been telling you about. If the real estate market goes down, buy. Remember, and I'll have to dig up when this was, but I'm sure that it was during the year 2008, 2009, particularly, maybe even into 2010. I said then, and I'll say now, if and when real estate prices ever drop below the cost of construction, so know your cost of construction in your area. But if real estate ever drops below the cost of construction, that is a screaming buy signal, because what that means is that nobody's going to build any more inventory. Therefore, that pent-up demand starts building. That's where we're at right now. That happened for so long. We still have this pent-up demand that not everybody has become financially eligible to buy, qualify for mortgages. And as they're now clearing up 7 years out of the bottom, let's see, the bottom of the mark was 2011 plus 7 is 2018. Well, look at that. The demand started really shooting up in 2018, 2019. What was our problem? Inventory. And now catching up to that inventory are the aging millennials, aging into their prime years. So anyway, need I say more? It's Friday. I've gone on for a whole bunch of extra time for our Facebook listeners. If you have any questions, any comments, please go ahead, put them in the comments section. Again, share this on your site. Each show, share it. Let more people know. Invite more people to watch, and I will thank you. In fact, cheers. Here's to you. I'm done. Have a great day, guys. There it goes. And